keeping with this idea of the one or oneness, can you explain how the one or oneness relates from your characters in the third eye?
Right, because in Revelations, he's the one. He's the one that the prophecies has foretold. He's the one that everyone is waiting to come back, and he has to fulfill his prophecy. Now, the rebels have to come and waking him up. This is the Matrix part, which is the futuristic part of my book, the past 4 chapters. They have to come and waken him to his purpose. He doesn't know yet. He has been put to sleep, so he can't deal with things until it's time for him to evolve. When he evolves, then he can deal with the situation. So the rebels, all in their beautiful testament, have to come and waken him to his purpose. Some of them have to die as a testament in their faith that he's the one. This has always been going on through biblical time and through the end times. They are always the faithful ones. Some of them are going to be sacrificed because they have to keep their faith. They have to, they have to believe as a testament to show their faith. And so they come and they waken him to his purpose. They help him to get to where he needs to be. We can achieve what should be. And the reason why those other 2 movies fell off, Reloaded and Revolution, because they did not follow true to the concept and the truth of God, Revelation.
Now that stands to make sense. And I have to add this, I find it so interesting in listening to you talk and reflecting on many of the books that I've read about quote-unquote formal slavery and how it was common practice for every time a male child was born or every time a new child was born, a common question that was asked was, are you the one? Are you the one? In other words, I took that to mean, are you going to be the person to make a change? Are you going to be the person to free or deliver us from this or from that, whatever injustice might be? So I find that to be such an interesting connection in your work as well. Now, let me move forward a little bit here because I've got so many questions that I want to ask you. There's just so much to do here. Why not the number 7? I've always found that the number 7 to be a sacred number in terms of biblical things and things like that.
And the number 7 is the number of completion. It's like when God rested, because it's 6 days to create, 7 days a day of rest. That's why we always have a day of rest. That's why we call it Sabbath, a day of rest.
Okay.
It's just a day of quietness. It's a day that you need to talk to God or be still or be quiet so he can talk to you. Because you're active for 6 days, like a little worker bee. You're going around, you're doing things, you're communicating and stuff like that. Well, when you're busy and moving like that, God cannot speak to you when you cannot hear him because you're already involved in your own motions. So that one day God tells you is very important. He said the Sabbath, and we're not talking about Sunday. We're talking about the Sabbath that he's speaking about biblically. He's telling you there's that one day of rest that you need to be still so you can communicate with him or he can communicate with you. Because it's very important to connect to universal source on that one day. That's why all your energies and everything is restored unto you. That one day that you rest. And that's what he's talking about.
I've just learned something, and that also makes me think of the Bible verse. I don't know where it's located, but it goes something to the effect of, be still and know that I am God. That is what you make me think about in talking about rest and being able to tap into this energy that's supposed to be giving us some sort of guidance.
Exactly, and it will give you the guidance because you need to tap into the source because we're created in the image of God. That means that our spiritual connection or who we are that's connected to God has to follow these universal laws of God. When Jesus was speaking, he was giving you, if you go into the New Testament and you start reading his story and listening to the parables, which a lot of stuff has been just in parables because there are certain people who are supposed to gain this knowledge and certain people who are not to gain this knowledge. And that's why he's speaking in parables because it's spiritual. Those who would need to get this and gain this information will gain it and utilize it to evolve, and there are other ones who are seeking this knowledge and information so they can make money off of it, and they can enslave, and they can oppress, they can lock people down. And see, that this information, like Peter, Simon, the sorcerer, he was trying to get it from the disciples, and they told him, this kind of information, this kind of knowledge and power is not for you. This is to help, and is to heal, and is not to be a detriment to people. A lot of the people on earth has used this great magic and great things to oppress and hinder and harm people.
Definitely.
Which is the flip side of living.
Evil.
Is evil. It's backwards.
Now that sounds logical to me, Miss Stewart, right there.
It's truthful, because if you go into the New Testament and you start studying what Jesus is saying and try to understand it with the spiritual aspect and pray to God and say, God, Help me to understand the spiritualness of what Jesus is saying in this parable, so I can incorporate this law that he's giving me into my everyday life so I can be happy. Because if you understand the physical laws of God and you incorporate them in your life and you start using them, your whole life changes. That's why some people are happy on earth and others are miserable. And the people who think that they have to steal, kill, and do all this other stuff, they're in a whole total different bandwagon. They're like not even understanding the laws of God. You should not kill or harm or hurt anyone or take anything from anybody. And then as far as the 10 Commandments, there's no such thing as 10 Commandments. It's the law of the one. All the 9 numbers flow back into the one. Let me give it to you. Let me break it down.
Okay.
1 through 9. And when you had math, there is only 9 real numbers in the universe.
Okay.
That's right. When you get to 10, it's repeating itself, because 1 plus 0 is equal to 1. 11, 1 plus 1 is 2. 12, 1 plus 2 is 3. 13, 1 plus 3 is 4. It started repeating itself and going back to the 9 again. And then look, the 1 is the alpha. The 0 is the omega. So the alpha and the omega is 1 plus 0 goes back to the 1. Meaning the rebirth, meaning that there's no end. It just begins again. Meaning it's the circle of life, which is the infinity. Look, God's number is 888. The backwards of that is 666. Let me break it down. 666